Welcome, mortals, to the Beautiful Dead podcast. If you've come to this channel, you should stay for several reasons. One, you love vampires. This is a vampire podcast where we break down movies, TV shows, and books about vampires. We talk about the universe that's been created, how are they made, what rules do they have to follow, and more. Every once in a while, like October, I set aside the fiction and talk about all things vampire. 2, you have a podcast or would like to have a podcast and want to see behind the scenes of recording one. I edit out very little, so you will get to see mistakes and interruptions and learn along with me. Or 3, you're a fan of the podcast and you just want to watch me record it live. Or you like my books and you can't get enough of me. So, if you're still here, I promise it's due to your own free will, and I have not used my powers to keep you here. Now, watch the title cards and listen to the music along with the podcast. I'm gonna go get a bite, and I'll meet you back here, nice and full.
Hello? Really?
Vampire! We take your candy!
Count Dracula.
I am Dracula. And I bid you welcome, Mr. Hunt, to my house. Come in.
Our first award goes to the vampire for most blood drained in a single evening.
The strength of the vampire is that people will not believe in him.
Good evening, my fellow vampire lovers. The sun is going down, and you know what that means. It's time for me to record another episode of my podcast, The Beautiful Dead. As always, I'm your host, Lena Nazari. Just go to lenanazari.com. That is the easiest way to find me. You can click on contact if you need to talk to me. Email me. That's lena@lenanazari.com. Or if you really want to, you can DM me on social media, but I do not see that as quickly as if you just send me an email or a contact form. I just worked out, so I'm feeling good. I'm nice and energized. I have my vampire tea. Let's go ahead and jump in. I am doing Bride of the Damned, obviously, given tonight's discussion. I try to theme them, but Stavros, if you're watching, we need a Disco Queen themed vampire tea because this movie is so unique. I don't think anything was really going to tie in. So we're doing Bride of the Damned, and that's a black tea with like a citrus undertone. And if you can hear the ice in my drink, I made it iced tonight, which I highly recommend. So I am gearing up to get this book published. And once it's in the hand of my publisher, then I can focus on appearances. So the first appearance is going to be Fan Expo Philly, which is a favorite of mine. I think it might have been, it's not the original, but one of the very first ones I started at. And I'm still waiting to hear if they're going to do my panel. If that is the case, I will let you know. But that is the first weekend of May in Philly. If you've never been, it's absolutely beautiful. If you go, stop by, come find me, get an autograph poster, whatever, ask questions, just come say hi. So that's really it that's going on for me. Like I said, I'm kind of like pumping the brakes a little bit on the appearances this year, trying to focus on other things, doing something new on TikTok, so go check that out. Just trying to put my energies into other things. Still on the hunt for an agent, that's the biggest thing, so keep watching and listening to follow that tale, our mission, I guess. And I think I'm going to do a little summer excursion to New Orleans just for funsies. Nothing to do with the books or anything, just totally for fun. So excited about that. Let's jump in. Big thank you to the VHS Preservation Society. I as you know, found Martin with them, and then he said, well, you got to check out this next one. And I was like, you know, I was being polite. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll pick that up. It sounds interesting. Wowee. Let's just jump right in. Spoiler alerts if you've never listened to the podcast or checked out the YouTube. I talk about everything. I'm going to ruin the whole thing, and we're going to talk about it from beginning to end. So good luck tracking this one down. I will be surprised if many of you have seen it. What do you think of the new, for the YouTube watchers, what do you think of the new style of me putting little snippets from the film? Do you like that? Does it distract? Let me know, because I did it for the first time last week with Martin. All right, gang. Oh, and for those of you who are making it towards the end of the video and seeing the little code word message that I put at the end, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Let's talk about Nocturna. Nocturna. I don't know, if I ever like get another animal, I might have to name her Nocturna, because this is something. Let's do it. It's Transylvania, 1979. Hard times have fallen upon the house of Dracula, and to help pay the taxes on the castle, they have turned it into the Hotel Transylvania. The hotel manager is the beautiful and sensuous Nocturna, granddaughter of the original Count. Who still resides in the crypt deep in the sub-basement of the establishment. Nocturna books the American disco group Moment of Truth to entertain at the hotel's cabaret, the Claret Room, to increase business and the supply of fresh blood at the hotel. The name of the cabaret or club in the hotel is the Claret Room. While listening to the group rehearse their music, Nocturna experiences strange sensations which she has never felt before. At the same time, she is attracted to the handsome musician in the group named Jimmy. Soon they begin having a passionate love affair, but the music that plays as they make love prevents her from making him another victim of her bloodlust. The music continues the strange transformation of Nocturna, who sees her reflected image for the first time while dancing. Deeply in love with Jimmy, she disregards her grandfather Dracula's advice and runs away to America with him. When they arrive in New York City, she leaves the disappointed Jimmy to seek out the crypt of Jugula Vane, an old love of Count Dracula's, who lives underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, as one does. Nocturna goes to the disco to meet Jimmy, where she is transformed again by the soul-stirring powers of the music. All the other dancers join them in a fantastic, erotic dance scene. Meanwhile, back at Jagulia's, that's a mouthful, Jagulia's crypt, Count Dracula has appeared with his henchman Theodore and has placed Jagulia under a spell, forcing her to disclose the whereabouts of Jimmy's apartment. He orders his henchmen to bring back Nocturna and do as he wishes with whatever he wishes with her human lover. Theodore, who is hopelessly in love with Nocturna, captures her and brings her back to Jimmy's apartment tied inside a black bag. Theodore is about to take Jimmy's blood when Nocturna manages to rip through the bag, bare her fangs, and pounces upon the cringing Theodore.
Long live death.
Theodore drags his broken body back to Jagulia's crypt and informs his master he has failed. Jagulia leads them to the disco, hoping to change Count Dracula's mind when he sees how happy his granddaughter is. However, the Count is infuriated when he sees Nocturna dancing with Jimmy. He places Jimmy under an evil spell, as well as all of the dancers in the disco. Nocturna agrees to leave with her grandfather and return to Transylvania to save her lover's life. Jagulia, a romantic at heart, releases Jimmy from the trance. He is determined to risk his life to save Nocturna and rushes out of the disco. Before Count Dracula can destroy him, he rips an electrically lit T from the sign off the disco and advances towards the infamous vampire.
I wouldn't advise that.
So what's interesting is I watched the movie and then I read the summary, and there are things in the summary that are not clear when you watch the movie. So I read the summary and I was like, I think the writer of this movie must have written the summary because they picked up on a lot. So I had to go back and rewatch it. So whoever wrote this, shout out to you, because man, you nailed it. You made my job so much easier. Thank you. Vampiric references and crossovers. John Carradine plays Dracula in this movie, and he is in a movie called Las Vampiras, and then in one called The Blood of Dracula's Castle. Yvonne DiCarlo plays Jagulia, and for those of you who don't know, she is Lily Munster in the original Munsters. And I can't talk about vampiric references without mentioning the vampiric elephant in the room, which is the plot is that Dracula, in order to keep up with modern times, has turned his castle into the Hotel Transylvania. And because of this, his granddaughter falls in love with a human, which he is not happy about. Just saying. It sounds awfully familiar. I'm not getting in trouble. I'm just saying it sounds awfully familiar. All right, let's go ahead and break it down. Relationship to humans. We don't get to see a lot about like the Transylvanian people, if they know Dracula's a vampire, if they know vampires, any of that stuff. There's a lot of people at the hotel. I guess they're all human. I don't know. Maybe they're all supernatural creatures. I have no idea. It's never explained. What you need to know about this movie is that 60% of it is dance scenes and a very long bath scene. So there's not a whole ton of plot in here. I did the best that I could, but here's what I know. Relationship to humans. Humans, for the most part, don't know about vampires. Jimmy doesn't suspect that his new love is a vampire. And Drac even says to her, like, you feed on humans. You don't fall in love with them, ever. So there's, like, rules about how you're supposed to interact with humans. Interestingly enough, when they are leaving Transylvania, she says to him, like, it's a night flight, right? Like, she's very clear. It's all at night, right? And then they get to New York, and she's like, I'm sorry, I have to go, and takes off. And he doesn't question any of this. He's like, yeah, this is fine. I picked up this girl in Transylvania. Now we live together. It's all good. She's weird. It's fine. Relationship to animals. They can turn into bats. Haven't seen that one in a while. But that's really the only like reaction or interaction with animals we see. I was hoping there'd be some wolves or something, but they do turn into bats. They turn into bats. So anybody who's listening to the podcast and not watching the YouTube, I really highly recommend you watch the YouTube video of this one, because there is some stuff that is definitely going to be lost in audio. This movie is something. Let me just tell you. You see, if you're watching the YouTube, you see how big I'm smiling, because this is what keeps me going doing this podcast. Appearance. They look human, so you wouldn't know they were vampires until it's too late. They aren't immortal because Dracula is obviously aged, but he does make it clear that they age a lot slower. Nocturna says she's 126, but she looks 30. So that's really the only thing. They do have fangs. The vampires have 2 sharp canines. Dracula has dentures with fangs. I can't make this stuff up. So his granddaughter wakes him up. I'm like getting so excited. It's like I'm sucking in air, so now I'm gonna have the burps because I'm getting so excited talking about this movie. She wakes him up and brings him his dentures and like a glass of water, which he pops in, and he has fangs in. Blood. Yes, they drink blood. Nocturna says to Dracula, There's a 6-month supply in the fridge. You're good. At one point, we see a meeting of the Bloodsuckers of America, and they're talking about like, how do we adapt to this new world where the blood is very unhealthy? What are some other options we have? There's like a vampire character that is definitely of the times, who's like implied to be like a type of dealer of illegal substances, and he has like a dried blood version that you would snort. Can't make this stuff up. I'm just reporting what's in the movie. Food. The vampires don't eat. Sunlight. They cannot be in the sun. And like I said, she says multiple times to this guy that she's just met, it's a night flight, right? It's a night flight, right? And he's like, he's played as like such a hot dummy that he's just like, yep. Coffins. They sleep in coffins. Holy items. Crosses can repel them. Rules and powers. So no reflection until music and dance make her human, which we'll talk about this. They can turn into bats. They can mesmerize. Dracula can freeze a whole room full of people, like a disco full of people, that is not anything to scoff at. That's a heck of a power. How are they made? So apparently in this world, the vampires are born. Grandpa Dracula explains that she is to marry one of her own kind and then procreate, that she came from a very long, prestigious line of vampires, and that's why this whole hooking up with a human is so embarrassing. So in this world, I guess you are, you're born a vampire. Heartbeat or breathing. So they didn't address this, but considering that they came from Transylvania and they turn to bats and they sleep in coffins, I feel pretty confident saying these are classic vampires. So no heartbeat or breathing. How do they die? Good old stake to the heart. But we don't see that. This is a nice family-friendly movie from the 1970s, except for the bath scene, but we'll talk about that. However, Nocturna is turned human by the power of music and dance. Here's what I say about that. At least it's different. At least it's original. I mean, it's different. That's fine. Good for you, Nocturna. I'm so happy for you. Are they good or are they bad? So we see a few different versions of vampires in this. You know, Nocturna falls in love with a human and she would do anything to protect him. And Jagulia clearly still loves Dracula. She's nothing but nice to Nocturna. There's a vampire meeting where we see like different types of vampires, you know, trying to figure out how they're going to survive in these new modern times. So really the only quote unquote bad guy in this movie is Dracula. You know, but here's the thing. He's not a bad guy. His granddaughter meets a musician, runs off to New York City with this guy. Dracula's not happy about it, and he goes to get her and bring her back. Can you blame them? Can you blame him? Like, what grandparent or parent is going to be psyched about their daughter meeting a musician from New York and like running away? Nobody's going to be happy about that. So I don't even think he's a bad guy. So, like so many things we talk about in this world, you can choose if you're going to be good or you're going to be bad. Tropes I love and tropes I hate. So tropes I hate. I can't say that there was a lot of tropes in this movie that I groaned at. The movie is so cheesy that it's hard to really pin down anything that I didn't think belonged. I mean, them turning into animated bats is something. It felt a little bit like Scooby-Doo, actually. The whole thing, like the animation and everything, and a cop sees him and he's like, you can almost hear him being like, oh, zoinks, and running out of the room. I'm here for it. I'm totally here for it. Tropes I love. I love the forbidden romance trope. Whether it's vampire and werewolf or vampire and human or vampire and hunter or whatever it is, I love that trope. I'm here for it. We've talked about it so many times. You know, it shakes things up. Big fan of that one. And this one is not vampire specific, but I am here for a movie where they randomly break out into song and dance. This was fun, okay? It is like a Bollywood movie, but it's 70s disco, and we're going to talk about this, but the person who wrote it did everything for a reason. So I'm here for it. If you want to break out into song or dance, what was the one that we did a long time ago, the Canadian one that was a comedy? And they were a band that all get turned into vampires, and when she went to the party where she gets turned, they like randomly break out into song. Oh, I'm racking my brain. Was it Bit? Maybe it was Bit. Anywho, I'm here for it. All right, let's do the ratings, because I'm going to get so distracted talking about this movie. How scary or evil are the vampires of Nocturna? Bound by the sun. They can turn into bats, though, and they do need to drink blood. We never see any of them get violent. I mean, clearly they all look out for each other. You know, they make a lot of moral choices. You can be turned human by love and dance. So, you know, a solid boogie will make you mortal. Kind of takes away like some serious scare points when I see that. And I just don't feel like there's any evil inside of them at all. So we're going to do 3 out of 10 stakes to the heart for scariness and evil. Dracula can freeze an entire disco. They can turn into bats. They need to drink blood. But other than that, you know, I'm not worried about it. If they're coming after me, I'm just going to put on a good jam, start dancing. It'll be great. We'll have a dance party. How sexy or alluring are the vampires of Nocturna? I'm just going to talk about Nocturna here. There is a bath scene that is easily 4 minutes long. It might even be longer. She's gorgeous. Everybody wants her. But I don't think it's because she has like a special vampiric allure. I think it's because she's super hot and she can belly dance, and she's wearing practically nothing when she's walking around. Obviously they love sex. Even Dracula and Jugulia at the end of the movie end up like hooking up in his coffin in the cargo hold of the plane. So even at his age, you know, Drac is still getting it. They do age. It's much, much slower than humans, but they stay hot for like a super long time. They lose a couple of points because they don't seem to have any kind of special allure necessarily, but still, I'm giving them a solid score of 7.5 out of 10 onks for sexiness and allure. My thoughts. Oh, 1979. What a great time for vampires you were. And this is no exception. We got the unnecessarily long bath scene for Nocturna, who we find out in the movie is 90 pounds. And I'm pretty sure 5 pounds of that is her hair, just her hair. I mean, here's the thing. The lady who played her, I think it's Bonet, B-O-N-E-T. Mrs. Bonet wrote Nocturna, okay? She wrote the story, she produced it, she put herself in the lead, which I respect. It is her choice. She can do whatever she wants with this. I feel like movies like this paved the way for the late night vampire Skinamax movies that we got in the 90s. The dance music scenes are unreal. I've never seen anything like it. If you were around in 1979 and you were in dance clubs, can you please reach out to me or comment down below and tell me if this is really what clubs were like in New York City in 1979, please, because it is wild. I feel like just off camera, there was like people doing blow in the bathrooms, and there was like group activities, if you know what I'm saying, just like happening in the corner, and everyone was down for it, and everyone was like dancing in the middle. The scene of her walking down the street of Manhattan or wherever she's supposed to be in New York City in this like belly dancing outfit that was all like silks and satins and veils and very flowy. Like, listen, I would 1,000% cosplay her at a con if I could put this costume together. It's something I'll never forget. If you have the chance to watch this, which it would be very hard to track down, but if you have the chance to watch it, do it. do it. You have to say that you have seen it. And I thank you, the VHS Preservation Society, for talking me into getting this one. I owe you one. This was so special. This was something special, I'm telling you. All right, I'm done fawning all over this movie. Check it out. I will definitely watch it again. If I ever have like a movie night where it's like things that are so bad that they're good, I'm gonna make everybody watch this. I'm gonna set up like a projector, pull out my DVD, and I am gonna make everybody watch this. If you want invited, let me know. All right, next week we are gonna cover one that I also found on DVD, but this is not anything special. It wasn't like burned from a VHS or anything. I just found it in a used DVD store for like $3, and it is called Bitten. I believe it's from 2008. It has Jason Mewes in it. It's available on Prime, on Amazon Prime, if you don't mind watching commercials. So come back next week as we check that one out. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you want invited to the Nocturna movie party. And I hope you guys are having a wonderful time. I hope you're enjoying, you know, the new spring-like weather, if that's what you're getting wherever you are. I'm like out of breath because I'm so excited talking about this movie. All right, guys, I just feel like, you know how this podcast goes. I had a couple enjoyable ones, so I just feel like Bitten is going to be my punishment for that, or the price I have to pay or something. I don't feel good about this one, but I don't know. I've been surprised before, so come back and see what I think about it next week. In the meantime, go get some vampire tea and make it iced. You will not regret it. And I wish you wicked hugs and bloody kisses. Good evening.